Hello, everybody, and welcome to Starting Small Music. I'm Justin McCormick, and you're about to hear a conversation with an artist, musician, and music industry professional on their journey and how they got to where they are today. At Starting Small, we like to take you on a journey uncovering the untold stories of your favorite songs and artists. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Just keep a smile on your face and it'll be okay. Try not to be bitter, you gotta do it either way. Keep a smile on your face and it'll be okay. So when life throws a jab, you gotta duck out of the way.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Starting Small Music Podcast. Today we have drummer Jon August with us. How you doing today, Jon?
Great, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. So getting right into your story, where did you grow up and what was your childhood like?
Yeah, I grew up in Nashville. My dad's a drummer as well, so they moved to Nashville when I was like 6. And I kind of always played. Drums were always around and stuff like that. Didn't really get started like wanting to do it for real until like after high school. And then I was in a band for like 8 years in Nashville, kind of rock and roll sort of thing. When that sort of ended in like 2015, me and the bass player in that band were just like, let's go out and get our own stuff, start playing for people and stuff like that. So it's kind of a long journey of just playing a bunch of random gigs in Nashville, just random country things, pop things, all that. And then got like a little country gig with this guy named Hudson Moore. Met one of my really good friends, Nate Bedingfield, who's an amazing person, and just kind of really connected with him. And honestly, he's kind of the reason why I feel like I am where I am today. He just kind of threw my name out there for everybody and ended up getting the Mason thing through that. And then the Niko thing. I was talking to someone the other day. I had a crazy week like a couple years ago where I got like the Mason gig. It was one of those things, it's like you go through the music industry and there are so many times where you feel like, should I just like stop doing this? Like, is anything ever going to happen, sort of thing. And I was telling somebody the other day, within a week, I got like the Mason gig, got the Niko gig, and then Christian Pascal he's the drummer for Marin, called me to run playback for them. So it's just like this wild, like, what is happening? So it's like turned down like a playback gig for Marin to do this other stuff. And pretty awesome.
Crazy how it happens like that. Now, growing up, who were some of the first bands that you listened to that like made you feel a connection to music? Obviously you had your dad playing, but who were some of the records or people you were listening to growing up?
Yeah, man, it's I grew up listening to, my dad was in kind of the 90s country sort of world and stuff like that. And so I listened to a lot of the stuff that he played, guys that he played for. But honestly, I remember when I decided I wanted to like play drums for real. And my dad told me, you need to go upstairs right now, put on Sissy Strut by the Meters and learn that. And that was like, still to this day, that's like, I feel like that's my kind of soul, is like the Meters, like the Roots, like Questlove is one of my favorite drummers. So I always kind of say like Sissy Strut by the Meters, and then like Chicken Grease by D'Angelo,
for sure,
are like two of my favorite things. I mean, I was big into like Led Zeppelin and stuff like that, all the rock stuff, but it was really like the soul R&B kind of hip hop vibes, like from Quest and funk and stuff like that. It's kind of where my heart is, I think, really. So
have you had the opportunity to meet Questlove, like playing the Tonight Show or anything like that?
No, that was like kind of unfortunate. Like we did get to meet his I'm forgetting the guy's name now, but it was one of the Roots like guitar players. But they were all super nice. It was just so quick. Like the whole day was just insane. I think had I stayed like on stage for a little bit after we played, I probably could have met him, but we were just like getting off stage and stuff like that. So I didn't get to meet him, but got to sit on his drum kit and stuff like that. So that was pretty wild.
That's so sick. Now,
Yeah.
growing up in Nashville, did you grow up around any of the other like people that are drumming, like Jerry Rowe or like Grady Block or anyone like that?
You know, I didn't. It's kind of funny. I think it's mainly because I got started like a little late. And I was in when I did kind of get started, I was in this rock band, and I was kind of like all about being in the rock band and not really like playing for other people and stuff like that. So, but you know, it's like I think there are times where like you can look at your career or your life and have regrets. You know, like I wish I would have started playing for other people sooner and stuff like that. But it happened how it happened, and maybe, you know, had I not been in that band for 8 years and stuff happened how it did, I might not have met the people that I met. You know.
Right.
So I'm really grateful, and you know, it really is like, I mean, even not, I mean, I know I've met Jerry Rowe and stuff like that, but yeah, I don't know. I always tell people like I don't like know a ton of people in town. I think now, like, because I've really only been touring full time for like 6 years.
Yeah.
You know, it was like 6 or 7 years was like when I really started like getting out there and meeting a lot of people and stuff like that. So but I know Grady. We've talked a couple times because I used to Jordan Merrigan, actually, his guitar player, Ernest guitar player, like he was tour managing on the Mason tour that I did, and so
Right.
me and Jordan are really tight. So, and it's funny too because Ernest was opening up for us on that Mason tour, and so now getting to see him play like Faster Horses and stuff like that to just like crazy crowds is like really awesome.
For sure. Now
So yeah.
you said you started to get serious about music kind of in high school. Is that when you started kind of playing around town or anything like that, or were you kind of just honing your craft like in your basement or something?
No, dude. Yeah, like I didn't start playing around town until I was like 20, like 25.
Wow.
So yeah, it was just one of those things where I was just like, I mean, I played to records all the time. I was in a drum line in Nashville for a couple years, and I don't know, I just always played to records. I think it took me a while to like kind of get out of my shell a little bit and get out in town playing with people, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, and some of that might have been like, I mean, growing up with a dad that played, like, you know, he played for Delbert McClinton for like 12 years, like Leroy Parnell and Brian White and
Wow.
some other people. And so, especially with Delbert, that was the main one that I remember because he was with him for like, you know, 10 years or something like that. And so I would go and see them play, like, you know, I'd maybe get to see him play like 1 or 2 times a year. And every time I would go see him, I was just like, dude, these guys are insane. Like, the musicianship of these guys, it's just like next level. And that was always like, I think a little intimidating, you know, as a kid, seeing that stuff and seeing what your dad is doing and all that. But you know, I've grown into myself a bit more over the past like 5 to 7 years, and it's fun being able to be in situations especially like with Niko, like on a high level, kind of, you know, not high pressure, but just like, you know, you're kind of expected to be on your game and be professional and all that stuff, and to go through that stuff and feel like, oh, I'm actually really good at what I do, you know, like, and everybody has their particular things that they're good at, and you know, style of playing and stuff like that. So yeah, it's all good.
I think
Yeah.
it's really cool that you said that you didn't start until like 25, because I feel like a lot of musicians are super hard on themselves. Like they hit like 18, 20, and they're just like, dang, like this, like if I didn't make it now, like it's not happening.
Yeah.
But like you gave yourself a little more time to hone your craft, and then it happened. I think that's like a really cool story.
Yeah. And, you know, and I like one of my best friends in Nashville, his name is Luke, and he has kind of a solo pop project called Luker. And I started with him in Nashville. You know, we were playing clubs and played some little festivals and stuff like that. But it was a very like track heavy show. Like I was organizing, I had like 2 SPDs that I would like jump back and, I'd be playing the drum kit with an SPD at one point, and in the middle of the song I'd like switch to this like keys station where I'd play keys and SPD up front. And
That's sick.
that was like, I think that was a big thing for me because it was pop for one, it was track heavy, like kind of organizing a lot of tech stuff, sort of. And I really think that ultimately kind of prepared me for like the Niko thing, especially.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask. Like, I feel like did that translate a lot into like what you're doing with Niko now? A lot of like the electronic like backup stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember having a conversation with his producer who kind of called me to like, see if I wanted to sort of audition. It was kind of one of those things. It wasn't really an audition. It was like, we're rehearsing for some shows. And also, I hope you work out as a drummer, you know? But I remember him telling me on the phone, like, you're not going to be playing real drums, right? I feel like he told me that like 2 times. And I was like, yep, got it. Like, I've never been, I think my thing with drums is I'm not a purist. Like, I don't know. I love like acoustic drums and stuff like that. And I can definitely kind of nerd out on that stuff, but I've never really been like precious about like, oh, I'm not going to play an electronic kit. I don't do that,
Right.
And I think being like a big like hip hop rap kind of dude, like that's kind of what I'm into these days. And it's a lot of fun to be able to play those beats like live, those kind of beats. So yeah.
Now, coming out of high school, did you go to college, or were you kind of already thinking in your head like I want to get in the music industry at some point?
It's funny, when I graduated high school, I had a cousin who was living in Dallas, and I played baseball like all through high school. I was a big baseball dude, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. Like, even though I was playing drums and stuff like that, like at the house playing the records and stuff. And there was like a little junior college in Dallas that I went to, and I actually tried out like for the team, and I basically told myself like, if I don't like get on the team, then I'm going to play music. And that's basically what happened. And so, yeah, I went to just like did some like gen ed stuff in Dallas for a couple of years, moved back to Nashville in like 2005. And just kind of started playing to a bunch of records. And, again, one of those things, I think looking back, I wish I maybe would have, and I did go to Tennessee State for like 3 semesters. I did like a commercial music program there.
Oh, cool.
And it was cool. I ended up like, it was one of those things where I was kind of paying for it myself, and didn't want to like keep going in debt. And so I had a couple buddies at the school that were like grad students, and they were like, man, if you're going to get out there and play, like, just go do it. They were like, if you find yourself like sitting in your house, 6 months from now, just playing video games all day, then maybe get back in school or something. But like, so it was cool. Yeah. It was nice having those people that were like, that had gone through the full education route, telling me like, you don't have to do this,
Right.
But not that it's not important, but so yeah, I went to school for a little bit, but then dropped out like most people.
Now, when
So
you moved back to Nashville, what did those first kind of months look like, networking, getting back into the scene?
yeah, again, for me, that wasn't I wasn't really networking at that point. Like I ended up meeting a couple people. I had a buddy from high school that like was starting a band, and so that's when we kind of like started doing this rock and roll band thing. And I think I got kind of like sucked into it. Like I wanted to be in a band, which now is like, I would never want to do that. Like I want to do my role, but I don't want to be out like taking pictures with everybody and like doing the whole like artist thing. But yeah, man, I mean, it's kind of wild. Like I did that for like 8 years and I was doing zero networking. And so I think the fact that like when that ended and I started kind of getting out there, um, you know, it feels like it was a long time before I got something, but um, it would kind of happen quick, like within a few years, you know, 2 or 3 years, and I really started getting some stuff. So, um, I mean, it's, you know, it really is all about relationships. It's like you can be the best player in the world, but if you're, you know, can you curse on here?
Oh yeah, you're good.
Yeah, if you're like a dick to, you know, to everybody, like obviously that's not going to work out very well. But I think just being a good hang, obviously being good at what you do, but then just like connecting with people, you know, it's like Nate Bedingfield, like we ended up just becoming really good buds, and you know, talking about music, but also talking about life and our just experience outside of work, you know.
Sure.
And I think the more I've gone through this, the more I've kind of realized like that's really what it's all about. You know, obviously you have to be good and on top of your shit, but like yeah, I think it's ultimately about that, you know.
Yeah, because I
So
mean, majority of your guys' time is spent on the bus. You guys are only on stage 90 minutes a night, you know, like, so I
yeah,
feel like being a good hang is probably up there on the priority list when you're hiring someone for your band.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally. um yeah, so it's been, you know, and I think it's I'm a bit of an introvert, and like, you know, sometimes being out with people 24/7, it's like I thought the whole conversation would be quiet, but there's a plane. Hopefully it's not too loud.
Nice, dude.
But um, yeah, I don't know. It was just I think just like being around people 24/7, it can, you know, be tough, especially now we're on like a 2 week run, and you have to find time to like you know, take time for yourself and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I think, you know, I've gone through over the past couple of years like a lot of therapy, just personally, and um, just getting to a place where you're like really okay with who you are, you know, yourself. And um, I feel like that's a huge deal, you know, on the road, like getting to points where you're like, you know what, I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going to go get some time for myself and kind of recharge a little bit,
For sure.
and then come back and hang with people, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Now you talked about your rock group. What did those first few years look like on the road for you guys and trying to just push that project?
Man, it was it was tough. I mean, it was a very good learning experience. I think there were times towards the end where I got like, I mean, we played around town a ton. Like we won like the back in the day that Nashville had this like Music City Mayhem,
Mm-hmm.
which was like a battle of the bands basically. And we ended up winning one year and like played like basically a sold out show at Exodus and stuff like that. So
That's
we
sick.
had some like really, really fun stuff that we got to do. You know, played South by one time. I think it was one of those things where like it got to a point where I felt like I was the only one kind of taking it seriously a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just got to a point where I was like, do you really want to do this like in a professional kind of way? And um you know, there was a lot of drama at certain points and a lot of stuff we each went through individually. And um so it was fun. It was definitely a good experience. And I don't think, you know, if I could go back, maybe I would change it. You know, maybe I would do the band thing, because that was the thing, is at the time it's like I was doing the band thing and I could have been like networking and doing other stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just so focused on that. And but you know, there's no point in like having regrets. You know, it is what it is, and I am where I am now. I feel like because of that, not that everything happens for a reason, but um I don't know, just is what it is. So
When you first started that project, like in your head, did you see like maybe going and playing for a country artist? I mean, like growing up in Nashville, I feel like that's probably what a lot of drummers do. did you have a thing in your mind where you thought that was like selling out or something, and that's why you wanted to do like rock drums, and then you kind of, after grinding on the road, you're like, oh shoot, like this would actually be sick? Or like, what was that transition like of like you being like, okay, I actually just want to back someone?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for a long time, I was like, I will never play country music. Like, didn't well, just wasn't into it, you know. But I think that was part of what happened for me is I went through some when I started getting out there playing for other people. You know, I had some fun and was meeting people and stuff like that, and it got to a point where I was, you know, I was playing these little in-town gigs, and a lot of times, like, just for me personally, like, didn't like the music, like, you know, it wasn't really fun for me, and I've never, like, I love playing drums, but I've never been one of those people that, like, as long as I'm playing drums, like, I'm having fun. Like, I want to play music that I like too, you know. And so we were talking about this the other day. Like, I got to a point where I, like, calculated up how much I was making on, like, in-town gigs, you know, playing for people that were great people, but I just did, you know, sometimes the music was like, okay, sometimes it was really bad, you know, like, just from an objective point of view. But like, yeah, I got to a point where I was like, all right, if I'm making like 100, even $200 for an in-town gig, which is like pretty good, you know, usually is like 150, and maybe you'd get like $50 for rehearsal or something like that. And I remember calculating up like the time that it would take for me to like get the material, listen to it, learn it, because I like to get it in my head, so I'm not like just looking at a chart the whole time.
Yeah.
But also chart it out, rehearse it, you know, load my gear up and take it to a rehearsal space, pack it back up, go to the gig. I was like, I'm making like $3 an hour. Like,
Hey, but you get free beer though.
You do get free beer a lot of times. Yeah. So that was cool. But yeah, I mean, obviously I mean, that's not like a blanket statement for everything. There were times where like I actually had fun and the music was pretty good and stuff like that. But I just kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't want to say yes to everything. I would rather focus my energy on like learning Ableton more, or, you know, just practicing more, or just honestly just going out and like hanging with people. Like, because it's like at that point there were some people that had seen me play, and like, you know, I felt like I was getting confident enough to where I was like, okay, I'm a pretty good drummer, you know, and I'm a pretty good hang. Like, I like making friends and stuff like that. But yeah, I just didn't want to, yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to like focus my energy more on like networking, hanging with people, like building relationships, but not saying yes to every single gig, you know, just because it was a gig.
Yeah.
And that was also around the time that I like, I've got two boys, they're 5 and almost 6 and 4. And so that was a little bit of the motivator too, where I was like, I'm not going to be gone. I'm not going to take time away from them to do something that doesn't really, at the end of the day, pay that great. And
yeah,
I don't really like it anyways, you know? So, yeah, I don't know. So
now, when you get a call from Mason Ramsey's management that they're looking for a drummer, were you looking for a gig at this point, or was this like kind of something that fell into your lap?
So that was through my buddy Nate. So we were on this same country gig with Hudson Moore for a little while, playing like Tin Roofs and stuff like that. And he ended up getting like the Mason gig, and so he got pulled off of that Hudson Moore gig. And I was like, cool. I love Nate, super happy for him. And then like the keyboard player for Hudson like ended up going and playing some stuff with Mason. And then our bass player ended up going, and I was just like, I remember being like in the Sprinter van and thinking about like Nate and my buddy Michael and Dylan that had like gone to do some of the Mason stuff. And I was like, I just want to do that so bad, like have something more legit. And and then their drummer couldn't do a couple dates, so I subbed a couple. I think we played Boots and Hearts or some Canadian festival, and that was actually funny enough. That was the run that Nate told me about Niko. He was like, I think I think this might be like a really cool thing if you're into trying out for it or whatever. But I remember they like put me on a flight back to Nashville, like in business class, which is like the first time I'd ever been on like business class. And so I was just like drinking my wine and like listening to Niko stuff. And I was so pumped on it. Like, and then like not too long after that, Mason's drummer ended up moving on to another thing. And Nate called me and was like, hey, do you want to go on a fall tour with Mason? And I was like, hell yes, I do. Absolutely. And so, so I'd said yes to that, and then ended up getting like the Niko thing. And so I did a few dates with Niko, but then I had committed to Mason already. So, so we did that fall tour, and man, the Mason thing was like, to this day, one of my favorite tours ever. I mean, it was just like so chill, all good people, like so much fun. Like so many good memories. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Mason memory? Anything funny he might have said to you or anything?
I mean, he said funny shit all the time. He was like, he's a performer at heart for sure. But honestly, the funniest thing I think that ever happened was he was pretty big into video games. He had this like portable Xbox that he would bring on the bus, and his favorite like game was this farming simulator game, which was like, it was basically like, I don't know, Grand Theft Auto or something, but for like farming. And he would play that all night long, like would stay up all night long playing this thing. And I remember at one point some dude in the game like came and like burned up all of his crops or something like that. And Mason just started yelling. He was so mad. And he ended up kind of losing his voice. And so we were playing I forget what club it was in LA, but like Justin Bieber came to it, and like Benny Blanco, like both of them were there. And he was just telling the story on stage of like, yeah, my voice is kind of on the fritz right now. And the reason being I was playing this farming simulator game, and he just goes into this, I don't know, it was really funny. So, but I mean, he said funny shit all the time.
So funny.
Yeah. So he's a good kid.
Take me through the first day you meet Niko.
Yeah, the first day I met Niko was going to his house to pick up the like electronic drum stuff that they had. And I remember going to his place, and I remember just being like pretty intimidated because like I walk, he's already like been pretty successful as a songwriter. And so I go in his house and stuff like that, and he's got his gold boots and his jeans, Amiri jeans and like this whole thing. And but just like the nicest dude, and so that was honestly the first, like it felt very like high pressure. Like, I mean, I rehearsed in my dad's little studio for like a month and a half, just like shredding that stuff and learning how to do the drum stuff that they were doing with the electronic setup and all that. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, it just ended up kind of working out, I mean, I remember the producer guy, which is now like a really close friend of mine, Josh Murdy. He's actually out in LA too. He told me, he was like, I remember sitting behind you, behind the drums, like, first song that we played. And he was like, all right, I hope this guy's good. And then he called me after, I mean, the day went so great. And he called me afterwards, and he was just like, dude, you absolutely crushed that. He was like, there were so many times I would like look away, and it was like, it sounded exactly like the record, kind of thing. And so, which is what they wanted. They wanted it to be like exactly like the record. And
for sure.
So that was a really cool moment of like feeling like I kind of stepped up to the plate. It was nerve wracking, but I had done my homework and all that. So it was really cool.
What's it like being probably one of the only drummers in Nashville that plays an electronic kit? And were you there when they were like the first act to play the electronic kit at the Opry?
I was, yeah, and that was pretty wild. I mean, all of the guys at the Opry were like just so kind and like thought it was so cool. And um, and for me, I'm like, I don't know, I can get a little like self-deprecating, but I'm sitting there, I'm like, I mean, it's just electronic drums. It just runs through this MIDI thing and goes into Ableton and it's triggering, I'm like, I don't know, it's pretty simple to me, but
Right.
um but yeah, it was so cool. And my dad was there, which is really awesome. So a bit of an emotional moment for me, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was I mean, it's always been like, there are so many times, I tell people so many times, it's like, I mean, now it's not as much because I feel like he's kind of known for that now. But when we were first kind of starting, like, I feel like every show, there was always somebody in the crowd that was like, not even looking at him. They were just staring at me the whole time. Like, what's that guy doing? Like, is he even playing? Like, all the, like, I could just tell they were just like so, uh, kind of, just kind of confused as to what was happening.
Yeah.
Um, but and then players and stuff like that, like, it's cool. I mean, you get some people like maybe some older generation guys that are think it's kind of like BS, a little bit.
Mhm.
But then a lot of guys that just like think it's so cool. And it's like, that's the thing, is at the end of the day, I think that's why, like, I'm not really precious about that stuff, because it's like, if it's a good opportunity and it's something that I want to do, like, I don't care what I'm playing, really.
Yeah.
And that's what this gig requires. And which we're probably switching over to a bit of a hybrid situation next year, which is going to be a lot of fun. So but it has been cool. I mean, it makes fly dates pretty difficult sometimes, doing these throw and go festivals.
Yeah.
But we've made it work. And um yeah, I would say the general response has been like really good, pretty
Awesome.
supportive. And yeah, so
Do you
yeah.
have a favorite song in your set that just gets you hype every night?
Oh, honestly, he has a song called "All That We Need" that is like kind of a slow banger. um I mean, there's so many like that. Paradise. Some of the new stuff that he has coming out is just like next level. um so I think, yeah, there's going to be an album coming at some point, probably next year. But
Okay.
um so yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about his stuff, is like, it's, I feel like there's a lot of it that is outside of the drum production, is kind of more country than some other country stuff, just as far as the instrumentation. A lot of banjo, ganjo, like um country background harmonies and stuff like that. um but a lot of the melodies are like, it's really pop, and so it's kind of cool, like blending those two.
For sure.
um yeah, I don't know, I mean, Mason was one of those first artists that I played for, that I was like, there was some of it that was like a little kitsch for me, but like, honestly, most of the songs were like, damn, these are bangers. Like, I had a lot of fun playing it. And same with Niko. Like, I like genuine, it's stuff that I don't, like, I never listen to country like on my off time kind of thing, and especially like artists that I play for. But like, Niko's one of those people that like, I genuinely like his stuff, and so like, it's fun. It just makes it more fun to play live,
For sure.
when you're not that people are faking it, but it's like, you have to perform whether you like the song or
Yeah.
not. And so to be with somebody that you like legit like all the songs is a pretty huge deal.
Now, I like to close all my interviews asking my guests a piece of advice you might have learned along your way, becoming a professional musician. And also, I'd like for you to touch on kind of how you found like a family life balance being on the road. I know you touched on having two sons. So
Hmm.
yeah.
um yeah, what was the first part of your question again?
kind of just anything you've learned as a musician, kind of, or something you'd tell your younger self.
Yeah, honestly, just to not take things so seriously. Like, just loosen up and have fun. That's something I've learned over the past several years, I would say. And just like, there's so many situations where you get into, and like, at least for me and probably a lot of other people, where it's like there's a bit of fear involved. There's always some nerves involved, and like finding ways to kind of get through that. And like, once you push through that stuff, it makes it, it's like, yes, I did that. Like, I was so scared of whatever the situation was, and I did it. I pushed through it. And so and as far as like the family life and stuff like that, I mean, it can definitely be hard. We're on the kind of tail end of like a 2-week run, and but when I'm home, and so we get to do really cool stuff when I'm home. So
Heck yeah.
I think just being like super intentional and present when you're home.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment, and check out my music on all streaming platforms at Justin McCormick. See you guys next time.